Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back, everybody. Good to see you again for this last substantive session of the Social and Solidarity Economy Academy on Partnerships and Ecosystems. This session is titled Partnerships for an Inclusive and Sustainable Development, Social and Solidarity Economy, Ecosystems Beyond COVID-19. And it is my pleasure to welcome our moderator for today, Mr. Vic van Vuuren. You've met him before. Mr. Vic van Vuuren is the Director of the Enterprises Department of the ILO headquarters in Geneva. He is also the chair of the UN Task Force on Social and Solidarity Economy. Thank you again for being with us, Vic, here, and I give you the floor.
Thank you very much, Linda, and welcome everyone. I'm usually given this task because I've got a big voice, but I'm not necessarily the expert. And we've got some great experts on our panel today to talk on the topic that Linda's just introduced. We're going to have 3 videos during the course of today's session, and we have 4 panelists, and hopefully our 4th panelist will be joining us. There seems to be a linking problem. And I'd like to introduce the panelists, but first let me mention the 3 videos that we'll be hearing. The one will be from Mr. Marvin Rodríguez Cordero, the Vice President of the Government of Costa Rica. And the second video will be Mr. Zacarias da Costa, CPLP's Executive Secretary. And the third will be Ms. Yolanda Díaz, the second Vice President of the Government of Spain and Minister for Work and Social Economy. They will not be running consecutively. We'll have a video, then we'll have some of our experts' input. And let me introduce our live panelists. We have Mr. Vitor, Ramalho, General Secretary.
Vou apresentar agora os nossos panelistas.
Speaking Capital Cities, UCCLA.
Aqui vocês vão poder ouvir, então.
Second is Ms. Antonella Noya from the OECD, who's a good friend of ours, and as well, all of, in fact, are good friends of the institutions we work in. And next will be Mr. Yvon Poirier from RIPESS, and lastly, Laurence Kwark from GSEF. So thank you very much for joining us and being part of our show today. So without any further ado, we're going to start with our first video, which will be the video from Mr. Marvin Rodríguez Cordero, Vice President of Costa Rica. And I now hand it back to the technicians to put the video on for us.
Del Gobierno de Portugal y a la Organización Internacional del Trabajo, y les externo mi agradecimiento por hacer posible la celebración de la 12ª edición de la Academia de Economía Social Solidaria. Aprovecho también la oportunidad para saludar a los equipos técnicos, personas expertas y participantes de esta 12ª Academia. Esta es una de las instancias más importantes para reunir a especialistas, académicos, líderes y representantes del sector de la economía asociativa, autoridades gubernamentales y de los organismos internacionales para analizar y reflexionar sobre las tendencias y necesidades del sector, pero también para construir redes de trabajo intersectorial. Por ello, me llena de orgullo el poder participar con ustedes, una vez más y durante este último día de actividades. La experiencia de nuestro país en el impulso de políticas públicas que impulsen la generación de prosperidad con justicia distributiva y responsabilidad ambiental, identificando en la economía social solidaria y sus distintas expresiones organizativas y empresariales uno de los instrumentos más poderosos para lograr este cometido. La temática que nos ocupa es de la mayor relevancia en la actual coyuntura y no es casual que la urgente transformación socioeconómica y ecológica de nuestro planeta aparezca ligado a la economía social solidaria, ya que si algo caracteriza a la economía asociativa es que se trata de una economía para la vida. No podemos hablar de una agenda global de desarrollo y de una economía que sitúen el centro a las personas sin que ello signifique, a su vez, posicionar la sostenibilidad ecosistémica en el centro de nuestros esfuerzos por lograr el desarrollo. Sharon Burrow, secretaria general de la Confederación Sindical Internacional, lo resume en una frase contundente: no habrá empleos en un planeta muerto. Esta frase es aplicable a todas nuestras actividades humanas. No habrá economía, desarrollo, prosperidad o justicia distributiva en un planeta muerto. La responsabilidad sobre la actual crisis sanitaria global recae sobre nosotros, los seres humanos, tras un manejo inadecuado, particularmente durante los últimos 200 años, de nuestra relación con la naturaleza y por haber interpretado erróneamente que el ser humano es el destinatario y el centro del desarrollo, cuando en realidad somos solo una pieza de un sistema complejo e interdependiente de ecosistemas. La pandemia del COVID-19 y la crisis socioeconómica derivada nos llaman a replantearnos urgentemente nuestra relación con el entorno natural, así como el fallido contrato socioambiental imperante. Pero la emergencia también ofrece la oportunidad de impulsar una reconstrucción más allá de una simple recuperación, así como nuevos modelos de producción y consumo que sepulten para siempre las prácticas perversas que condujeron a esta situación. En esta coyuntura, Costa Rica estima que la agenda ambiental es un valiosísimo vehículo para reconstruir sobre la base de modelos de desarrollo sostenible, con enfoque sistémico, generadores de bienestar para todas las personas. Ahora es el momento para permear a todos los sectores administrativos, productivos, los principios y valores de esta agenda, sin los cuales la reconstrucción económica no tiene sentido, pues sería volver a construir sobre un esquema fracasado. El esfuerzo por esta transformación verde requiere de la mayor ambición posible en el discurso, el compromiso y las acciones concretas, así como de la congruencia en la actuación de todo el aparato estatal y del acompañamiento de la empresa privada y la sociedad civil. Costa Rica aspira a que cada dólar destinado a la reconstrucción sea invertido con esa visión sostenible, independientemente de la materia a la que se destine el dinero. Tal posición es compartida y acompañada por socios como la Unión Europea y el Banco Mundial. Como parte de este enfoque sistémico de reconstrucción, Costa Rica se encuentra liderando junto a Francia la coalición de alta ambición por la naturaleza y la gente, una coalición de gobiernos comprometidos con el desarrollo sostenible, que aspira a proteger el 30% de los territorios continentales y oceánicos para el año 2030. En línea con las recomendaciones de la OCDE, Costa Rica se opone a cualquier subsidio a combustibles fósiles y en general a todo subsidio para actividades que perjudiquen los ecosistemas terrestres y marinos. Creemos firmemente que se debe promover la transformación de esos subsidios en incentivos verdes y de implementar cargas e impuestos a las actividades carbonizadas de forma escalonada pero ambiciosa. Debemos proponernos la reconversión total de la producción y consumo energético del planeta sobre la base de fuentes de energía limpias y el impulso de la industria que hace uso eficiente de la energía para generar empleos y sustituir costos operativos. Las soluciones basadas en la naturaleza deben convertirse en parte esencial de nuestro discurso internacional y prácticas nacional. Debemos promover su extensiva implementación a toda escala y procurarles financiamiento. En el marco de las soluciones basadas en la naturaleza, la economía social solidaria posee un enorme potencial para impulsar las transformaciones necesarias. Ya lo ha hecho en campos como las energías limpias, el abastecimiento de agua potable y la participación en esquemas de manejo compartido del patrimonio natural del Estado. En las palabras de la maestra Ostrom, la economía social solidaria es un poderoso instrumento para evitar la tragedia de los comunes, involucrando a las comunidades y a las empresas asociativas en la gestión y aprovechamiento sostenible de los recursos, brindándoles incentivos tangibles para resguardar el acervo natural. En síntesis, la crisis actual es el momento propicio para impulsar una transformación de nuestros sistemas productivos desde una economía para la vida que asegure la protección de nuestro planeta. Solo así será posible situar a la persona en el centro. Y la economía social solidaria es quizá el mecanismo más idóneo para hacerlo. En tanto, conjuga ambos principios mediante modelos de negocios humanistas e innovadores.
Thank you very much to the Vice President of Costa Rica. And that is certainly a good link between the environment and SSE, because I think as we go forward, we need to make sure we don't operate in silos as we seek solutions to the global challenges. It's my great pleasure now, and it's an honor to introduce our first speaker, who will be Ms. Antonella Noya from the OECD. Antonella, the floor is yours, but I'd like to ask you a question in introducing you as well, in that we know that SSE partnerships are so important, and what makes them particularly effective in times like COVID and these challenges that we face? The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Vic. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. So I would like to use my 5 minutes to present a kind of partnership that OECD knows very well, because it has helped created and implemented them. And these are the peer learning partnerships. And I think that at least the panelists, but maybe someone else in the audience, has already had the opportunity to listen about this partnership. So first of all, what is peer learning? Peer learning is indeed a very powerful way to stimulate collective thinking, to develop innovative solutions to many challenges, including those that have been just mentioned, and also to share knowledge and ideas. And the OECD, with the support of the European Commission, has created 6 peer learning partnerships. That is partnership in which many social economy actors are from different continents, from Europe, but also from Brazil, Mexico, India, United States, and so on, are getting together, including with other stakeholders, so public sector, academic, and so on. And they have been created to work on specific issues which are very, very important, and are, for instance, a legal framework for social economy, social impact measurement, how to adapt ecosystem, local ecosystem for social economy after the COVID crisis, and so on and so forth, internationalization, gender, and so on and so forth. And so through these 6 consortia, some 130 actors got together to discuss, and they worked through meeting, online meeting, bilateral opportunities, and so on and so forth. And they are at the end of their work now, and we are organizing an event next week, and I will put the link on the chat for you to register in case you want to hear from the result of this partnership. But what I would like to say now is what has made them effective, because this is the question you are asking, Victor. So paradoxically, I would like to say that if it is not COVID itself, of course, which has made this partnership effective, COVID continues to be really a strong motivation and a push for social economy organization to be active more than ever, because COVID itself has put the social economy under the spotlight and has made evident to everyone the important role that social economy has played. So having this said so, I think that this kind of peer learning partnership that we have contributed to create have been effective because there has been a whole global community that has been created in a time in which it is very difficult to travel, it is very difficult to meet together. So the creation of this open space in which everyone can gather, because they had to use technology, digital technology, of course, to meet, has been very important. And the notion itself of proximity has been very interpreted, because all these people working, a small social economy organization from Belgium has been able to keep discussing with Canada, Brazil, India. So the proximity has been rethought. And so this open space, it has become a space of virtual proximity. Second factor of effectiveness is, of course, the use of digital technology, and I maybe will develop a bit more on this later on. And then, of course, the fact that we pushed this partnership to produce concrete results. So they had an objective. They have an objective to stay together, and they had to shake their brain, to change their ideas, and to come up to the OECD with some concrete results, ideas on how to improve ecosystems. And they had the opportunity doing so also to discuss and to align the different idea understanding. And so I think this forced them also to be effective themselves. And I think that another element for their effectiveness is a motivational one, because now that they know well each other, even if the work with the OECD is ending, I think that they will want to remain together, and they will want to remain visible, and they will want to keep momentum for social economy and for the network themselves. I am done here.
Thank you very much, Antonella. That's great. I think to hear the practical examples and successes is something we don't do enough of. So we're moving from Europe, and I'm assuming, Yvon, that you're in Canada. And so we'd like to ask you to address the same question about partnerships and what makes them particularly effective during these difficult times. And I understand that you'll be speaking in French, so please, those of you who are not sure, make use of the interpretation services that are available. Over to you, Yvon.
Merci, Vic. Je vais commencer en parlant d'exemples concrets de partenariat au niveau local. La deuxième série de questions, on pourra intervenir plus globalement. Je vais donner deux exemples de ce qui a été fait d'abord au Mali. Pendant la crise de COVID-19, l'ESS, des artisans maliens d'organisations de l'ESS, des coopératives et surtout des associations ont vraiment apporté beaucoup de solutions à travers la confection de produits à base de matières et matériaux locaux pour substituer aux importations. Par exemple, du savon et du gel hydroalcoolique désinfectants des mains, des antibactériens, donc à base de qualité, de citron et autres plantes qui coûtent en moyenne 5 à 10 fois moins cher que les produits disponibles en pharmacie. Il y a aussi des équipements mécaniques de lavage de mains qui ne pouvaient même pas être importés à cause de leur prix élevé, donc ont été fabriqués localement par des gens de l'ESS. Il y a aussi des masques confectionnés à partir de matières textiles locales qui sont 10 fois moins chers que les ceux importés. Concernant les masques, le déficit de matières premières locales a été résolu à travers des approvisionnements provenant des pays des membres de l'AES, donc du réseau africain. Donc, autrement dit, il n'y avait pas de textile au Mali, mais ils ont réussi à en chercher dans d'autres pays de l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Parce que les produits sur le marché mondial, ils sont en Bangladesh ou ailleurs. Il y a également des produits alimentaires transformés à base de céréales de grande consommation dont la distribution en période de couvre-feu, le semi-confinement a été possible, partout grâce au club de jeunes entrepreneurs ESS et le réseau malien RIPESS lui-même. Donc, c'est des exemples concrets de comment on a répondu aux besoins localement. Ensuite, un exemple concret en Inde. Il y a une organisation qui s'appelle ACEFA, qui est dans l'État du Tamil Nadu, dans le sud de l'Inde. L'association des villages comprend 10 000 villages avec des millions de personnes, environ 4 à 5 millions de personnes. Donc, ça existe depuis, ça a commencé en 1968, donc c'est une organisation qui a une longue histoire de construire le développement pour leur communauté. Donc, des exemples précis. Ils ont appuyé 2700 personnes en grande difficulté, principalement des femmes seules et personnes avec des handicaps physiques. Donc, ils ont apporté des soutiens financiers et autres. Dans 3 villages, en particulier dans une région, ils ont organisé des repas gratuits à domicile pour 120 familles pendant 155 jours. Les repas étaient fabriqués dans une cuisine collective et le coût de ce projet est 7,5 € par mois par personne. Donc, vous voyez un peu le niveau de vie dans cette région de l'Inde. Les écoles ont été fermées pendant 18 mois, y compris les écoles gérées par l'association, parce que l'association gère un certain nombre d'écoles elles-mêmes qui appartiennent à l'association. Donc, par exemple, ils ont mis en place un système où les téléphones mobiles, parce que dans chaque village, dans chaque famille, habituellement, il y a un téléphone. Donc, ils ont été capables d'instaurer l'utilisation de WhatsApp pour pouvoir avoir l'école à distance. Dans d'autres villages, il n'y avait pas du tout d'accès téléphonique ou pas de téléphone. Ils ont distribué des mini-pads qui ont été contribués par une multinationale en Inde. Donc, il y a des gens en Inde qui ont aidé. Dans une autre région, les fermiers ne pouvaient pas se déplacer à cause du confinement. Donc, ils devaient rester chez eux dans les villages. Donc, ils ont organisé une distribution de 27 000 arbres, 27 000 arbres, dont la plupart sont des arbres fruitiers qui produiront des fruits pour mettre sur le marché dans quelques années. Ils ont également établi un accès à un crédit d'urgence uniquement pour survivre. Ce n'est pas la microfinance elle-même. Plus récemment, avec le déconfinement progressif, ils ont organisé un microfinance pour recommencer des petits boulots, principalement pour les femmes, comme les vendeurs itinérants, etc. Merci. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yvon. And that was great to hear from your perspective from within the RIPESS stable. We're now going to move across to South Korea. I'm assuming that's where you are, Laurence, in Seoul. And it's great to have you on board. And also, if you can give us some of your reflections on the effectiveness of the SSE organizations during this difficult time. Over to you, Laurence.
Thank you very much, Vic. Good morning and afternoon to you all, speakers, participants, and organizers of the 12th edition of the Social Solidarity Economy Academy. Since 2020, the dramatic global context caused by the COVID-19 have shown us how fragile our territories can be, as its consequences have infected all spheres of our society and economy, more particularly aggravating the situations of people living in poverty and inequality. At the same time, we have seen so many cases of good and innovative practices of social solidarity economy through intercooperation of social economy enterprise and organizations who have acted to provide immediate and relevant social services to meet urgent needs of citizens, such as healthcare services, food shortages, loss of employment, unequal access to the basic needs, technologies, and digital transition and educational opportunities, etc. But for me, I can say the social solidarity economy partnership we know best through the GSEF network are the partnership between social solidarity economy organizations, enterprise, and local government, who have responded in partnership and collectively to the COVID-19 crisis. And thanks to their partnerships, the impact of their actions have been immediate, effective, and important to meet the critical needs of citizens, greatly contributing to develop conducive ecosystem for social solidarity economy, especially in countries where the legal and institutional frameworks and measures in favor of social solidarity economy are rather weak and non-existent. Some of our local government members, understanding the strength and role of social solidarity economy, have quickly implemented special and tailored support programs for social solidarity economy, working in partnership with local social solidarity economy organizations in the relief and prevention work to fight COVID-19 pandemic. For example, the city of Praia in Capo Verde entrusted social solidarity economy sectors and volunteers to implement emergency food basket delivery program to the vulnerable household. RAMSES, the National Association of Local Government in Cameroon, implemented tax exemption program for youth and women social solidarity economy organizations. Many governments, city of Mondragon, Taipei City, Liverpool City, Seoul, Nouvelle-Aquitaine region of France, etc., also have provided financial support, subsidies, and new aid program for social solidarity economy organizations to reinforce their capacities to deliver better services. There are a number of local governments who have developed more extensive support measures for the social solidarity economy sectors. For example, City of Montreal, which has implemented 2 economic recovery plans in 2020 and 2021 to help social solidarity economy actors to recover from the impact of COVID-19. They have also presented Montreal 2030 strategic plan in December 2020, which is a strategic orientation for next 10 years for more resilient, green, and inclusive city, prioritizing the importance of developing a greener and more inclusive economy through supporting circular economy, social economy, local and eco-responsible facing, and the creation of new quality ecological jobs. So what makes social solidarity economy particularly effective in times of the COVID-19 crisis? I think that social solidarity economy has become the focal point for the social innovations, especially in times of crisis, as they take into account local needs, resources, and priorities to their business model in order to better respond to social needs. Social solidarity economy actors know very well about need of communities, capable to mobilize multiple resources and stakeholders as they put social and public missions before their private entrepreneurial needs. They are able to gather various stakeholders and supporters around their project, innovating their business model in a very flexible manner, as we have seen some even changed or stopped temporarily their business in order to respond to the urgent need of citizens. Social economy business models are unique in a number of ways as they adopt inclusive and democratic governance principles, and they involve and empower diverse stakeholders in their decision-making process by facilitating informed decisions about economic and social impact. Social solidarity economy actors are locally anchored, strong in their expertise, understanding what works and what doesn't work in the local context. And so they are particularly well suited to respond quickly to issues that arise in their local areas by bringing their synergies towards an inclusive and sustainable development. Thank you. I think I will stop here and I will wait for the next question.
Thank you, Laurence, for that great input. Much appreciated. You know, one of the things that I've learned, and we're going to go into the next round of questions after the next video, is that in the last few years, being involved in the debate at the global level on the social and solidarity economy, is that when it comes to its potential, it must be one of the world's best kept secrets. I think we've got such huge potential in scaling up the work of social and solidarity economy players to the point that we can make a much bigger impact on these global challenges. We're now going to, or you might have wondered what's happened to our fourth speaker, Vitor, from the, let me just get his title here, from the General Secretary of the Union of Portuguese-speaking Capital Cities. Unfortunately, he's had a problem linking in to the session, and if he does join, we will allow him to speak a little later, but we'll carry on with the program in the meantime. We're now going to go to our next video, which is going to be from the Honorable Zacarias de Costa, CPLP's Executive Secretary, which is the, I understand, the Community of Portuguese Language Countries is what it stands for. And so let's listen to the video.
Senhor Presidente da Cooperativa António Sérgio para a Economia Social, CASES, Senhora Diretora da OIT Lisboa, Doutora Mafalda Troncho, minhas senhoras e meus senhores, muito bom dia. É com muito gosto que participo nesta sessão de alto nível de mais uma edição da Academia de Economia Social e Solidária da OIT. Minhas senhoras e meus senhores, uma das consequências da pandemia do Covid-19 foi trazer à evidência as desigualdades socioeconómicas e os constrangimentos no acesso às mais diferentes tipologias de bens e serviços públicos de primeira necessidade. O Covid-19 expôs e exacerbou as desigualdades dentro e entre os países, situação que implicou que o impacto da pandemia afetasse desproporcionalmente as pessoas e grupos mais vulneráveis. Em face dessa realidade, a comunidade dos países de língua portuguesa defende a necessidade urgente de fortalecer o multilateralismo e a cooperação internacional num espírito de solidariedade global e responsabilidades partilhadas. A CPLP apela a que as respostas coletivas da comunidade internacional de curto, médio e longo prazo sejam guiadas pelo respeito de todos os direitos humanos, incluindo o direito ao desenvolvimento. Aliás, em linha com o apelo formulado pelo Secretário-Geral das Nações Unidas para a criação de um novo contrato social. A defesa e a promoção dos direitos humanos são valores perenes na agenda da CPLP e fundamentam o trabalho que desenvolvemos na promoção do desenvolvimento sustentável. E por isso, para a CPLP, não deixar ninguém para trás não é apenas a afirmação de um objetivo retórico da Agenda 2030 para o desenvolvimento sustentável. É um desígnio humanista que nos interpela a reforçar a observância desta agenda, particularmente na atual conjuntura e no contexto pós-Covid. Minhas senhoras e meus senhores, tal como já referenciei, as consequências económicas e sociais da pandemia do Covid-19 podem reverter décadas de progresso na luta contra a pobreza e exacerbar as desigualdades já existentes. De acordo com o relatório de 2021 do Banco Mundial, lançado no passado dia 1 de outubro, a pandemia do Covid-19 devastou economias e agravou a desigualdade de milhões de pessoas em todo o mundo. De acordo com esse documento, Em 2020, cerca de 100 milhões de pessoas foram empurradas para a pobreza extrema. Entre 720 a 800 milhões de pessoas sofreram com fome. Mais 161 milhões do que em 2019. O encerramento de escolas retirou 1,6 mil milhões de alunos da escola, atrasando o seu processo educativo. As interrupções nos serviços de saúde fizeram com que muitas doenças não transmissíveis e evitáveis não fossem tratadas. E deu-se um incremento na violência baseada no género contra mulheres e meninas, sendo também elas quem perdeu mais empregos ou foi retirada da escola. Em face desta realidade, exige-se que possam ser repensadas as estruturas de política socioeconómica existentes a fim de reconstruir melhor no pós-pandemia. Para isso, haverá que reforçar o diálogo global sobre as formas de sair desta crise e construir sociedades mais inclusivas e equitativas, alinhando as estruturas de política com a visão e os objetivos abrangentes da Agenda 2030. Minhas senhoras e meus senhores, a propósito do que vimos referindo, creio que valerá a pena recordar o relatório Transição Socialmente Justa para o Desenvolvimento Sustentável, o papel das tecnologias digitais no desenvolvimento social e bem-estar de todos, de 23 de novembro de 2020, no qual o secretário-geral das Nações Unidas aborda a necessidade de uma transição socialmente justa para uma forma mais inclusiva, equitativa e resiliente e desenvolvimento sustentável. Nesse documento, o secretário-geral evidencia a necessidade de prestar especial atenção aos grupos e comunidades desfavorecidos, marginalizados e vulneráveis, mas também destaca que a economia social e solidária deve ser considerada como um modelo alternativo de crescimento que visa encontrar um equilíbrio entre a eficiência económica e a resiliência social e ambiental, capacitando os indivíduos através de um maior controlo sobre os processos de tomada de decisão e recursos. A economia social e solidária fomenta o dinamismo económico, a proteção socioambiental e empoderamento sociopolítico. Creio, portanto, que no contexto da Agenda 2030 para o Desenvolvimento Sustentável se deve considerar a economia social e solidária como uma importante estratégia para melhorar o nosso mundo. Minhas senhoras e meus senhores, há cerca de 9 anos de concluirmos a Agenda 2030, abordar as interligações entre as dimensões social, económica e ambiental do desenvolvimento sustentável exigirá uma busca de uma transição socialmente justa que seja centrada nas pessoas e fundamentada nos princípios da justiça social. A economia social e solidária emerge como um impulsionador relevante neste caminho. E a CPLP encontra-se preparada para abraçar este desafio. Consideramos que o empoderamento económico e político de grupos vulneráveis, por via da economia social e solidária, poderá contribuir para a realização de uma ampla gama de direitos humanos e laborais. Esse desafio faz parte da nossa missão estatutária. Daria o exemplo da cooperação da CPLP, que, baseada numa estratégia de governação multinível e multiatores, promove intercâmbios de conhecimentos e adota uma visão transversal para a concretização das diversas estratégias setoriais. Várias das atividades acompanhadas pela CPLP em áreas como a segurança alimentar e nutricional e o combate ao trabalho infantil e o diálogo social tripartido são exemplos da forma como a nossa comunidade poderá promover uma visão de economia social e solidária. Permanecemos empenhados nesta visão. e continuaremos a mobilizar as nossas redes e a avaliar o potencial de reforço de parcerias com os nossos observadores consultivos e o Fórum da Sociedade Civil da CPLP para promover estratégias de economia social e solidária que apoiem a CPLP a contribuir para a plena concretização da Agenda 2030 e dos Objetivos de Desenvolvimento Sustentável dela derivados. Muito obrigado pela vossa atenção.
Thank you to Zacarias to Costa for that video input, which was also extremely interesting and valuable for this discussion. I just want to point out that in the chat column, you'll see that Antonella Noya put a link to the OECD event on peer learning partnerships, that you can find the link there. Also, thank you to Musa Al-Hassani for putting the example of Niger that is similar to that which is going on in Mali, and also to Rosabel Garay, who pointed out the vulnerable groups and the youth and the micro enterprises and the importance of those groups in the discussion. I've got a few questions that I've noted. If we've got time, we'll come to those questions, but I would now like to go to the panelists again in the same order. And we've heard about these examples of SSE and the networks, but how can we improve these networks to further help contributing to an inclusive and sustainable development? You've heard me say that SSE is like the best kept secret for a little church of people that sees the value of it, but we don't take it any further. Antonella, let's hear from you.
Thank you very much. And Yvon is totally right. But I think that since the last few years, thanks God, this secret is being spread. And of course, partnership have also a role in spreading it further. So this is a difficult question, Vic, how to improve existing networks. So out of the observation of some partnership that we have looked during the COVID period, but also, to be honest, looking more in depth into this peer learning partnership that we have contributed to create, I would say that what really could improve SSE's network, because most of them are local, but both local and international, like the panel that are represented in this, like the networks that are represented in this panel by Laurence and Yvon. I think that what could make, in general, networks more effective, more impactful, so what could really improve them would be to connect social economy organizations to policymakers, connect social economy organizations to those kind of traditional business, because there is a gap to fill, and there is a way also for traditional business to learn from social economy organizations, to better understand what they could provide, and possibly then to develop even commercial partnership. There are great examples, for instance, of private business procuring services from social economy organizations. But these actors of the economy are not often linked. So partnership could be also a way to connect them. And obviously, I think that a way to improve existing or future social economy networks would be to connect them to international organizations such as OECD, and the peer learning partnership is a good practice on this. But even what we have done together Vic, with the United Nations Task Force, which you lead, we were a small bunch of international organizations, and then we started to open up to a number of observers. And then we are creating a link also to make these actors closer to our organization, and therefore closer also to the policymakers. But I think that there are another couple of elements which are missing, and influencers are very important. Journalists are very important. So I think that it is important that SSC's networks try really to reach them, to reach out to these categories. And I would also suggest two other things. As I was mentioning before, we know a lot of national networks, and they are doing very well, and they are really important to address the national and local challenges. But now it is the right moment to internationalize social economy as a way to do business while having a very powerful impact on social challenges, environmental challenges. And so the way to do so could also be to connect these networks to global networks, so that the impact can multiply, and the models provided by the social economy can then be spread. And it is very difficult to do so, of course, but as I was mentioning in my previous intervention, technology is here to help. One does not necessarily want and need to travel from one part of the world to go to another part of the world. So helping these networks also to use more digital tools to develop this capacity to be able really to be wherever at the same time seems to me a good thing in order to help them to contribute better to inclusive and sustainable development. Thank you, Vic.
Thank you for that. And we welcome to the panel Mr. Vitor Ramalho. Mr. Ramalho, I'll get to you in a moment. I'm going to allow you just to listen to the next two respondents, and then I'll ask you to come in and give your input. So I'm going to go to Yvon first, then to Laurence, then I'll go to you, Vitor, to give your response to this question. So Yvon, you've heard the question. How can we improve existing SSE networks to further help contributing to this inclusive and sustainable development? Yvon, you've got the floor.
Oui, merci. Les exemples que j'ai mentionnés tantôt, sorry, just a second, I had to remove the interpretation here because otherwise I hear myself. Sorry.
You just need to mute your,
I know.
Mute the original audio.
Yes, just a second. Just a second. OK, merci. Oui. Effectivement, les organisations, les exemples de tantôt démontrent que comment des organisations qui sont des grandes organisations avec beaucoup de membres qui représentent finalement des milliers de personnes, des centaines d'organisations, sont en mesure de répondre aux besoins fondamentaux des communautés. Des petites organisations isolées ont des limites parce que c'est difficile pour ces organisations de travailler avec l'État ou les municipalités ou même des agences internationales concernées. Mais ils sont également été capables d'avancer et répondre à des besoins parce qu'ils ont beaucoup de liens avec la société civile dont ils sont membres. Donc, ils sont reconnus comme étant importants par leur communauté. Il y a d'autres organisations de ce genre dans d'autres pays, dans beaucoup de pays même, qui répondent aux besoins fondamentaux des personnes qui ne peuvent pas être répondus par le système néolibéral dans lequel on vit. Par exemple, la lutte à la pauvreté, une approche inclusive de toutes les personnes, de laisser personnes pour compte, l'équité du genre, l'avenir des jeunes, un système alimentaire pour et par des personnes dans les communautés, du logement, accès universel, santé et protection sociale. L'ESS, les organisations de l'ESS sont au cœur de cette approche, sans parler d'écologie, parce que la production et l'économie de l'ESS est souvent locale ou régionale. Cependant, et pour avoir été personnellement impliqué dans les réseaux depuis longtemps, il y a des difficultés majeures. Entre autres, ils sont trop peu. Et la plupart du temps, manque de capacité. Les gouvernements ou la Banque mondiale ou les organisations de ce genre financent pas nécessairement les organisations comme les réseaux. Or, il est essentiel d'avoir des réseaux qui ont une capacité d'agir, de rassembler tous les acteurs de l'ESS dans leur pays, dans leur région de pays, dans leur province, dans leur État respectif. Quand c'est à ce niveau, c'est essentiel pour pouvoir négocier avec les pouvoirs publics, mais également avec des institutions internationales comme la Banque africaine de développement ou autres. Souvent, les organisations sont très petites, même souvent, c'est des bénévoles, il y a très peu d'argent. Les membres au Mali n'ont pas la capacité de payer pour le fonctionnement du réseau malien, donc ils ont besoin des appuis extérieurs. Donc, or, pour l'instant, c'est extrêmement difficile d'aller chercher cet appui parce que les organisations internationales, on vit dans un monde où l'économie est majeure. Les organisations internationales financent des projets, des grands projets d'infrastructure qui ne sont pas nécessairement très utiles pour les pays concernés et encore moins pour les populations concernées. Donc, ça pour dire que et on peut démontrer également que l'ESS, c'est souvent des petites entreprises qui émergent, sur l'exemple du Mali ou d'ailleurs. Or, ça a besoin d'un accompagnement. C'est un fait connu, puis on peut le démontrer avec des exemples au Canada, que les petites entreprises de l'ESS qui émergent survivent 2 fois plus longtemps que les petites entreprises privées, les petites startups privées, parce qu'il y a l'accompagnement. Donc, c'est essentiel qu'il y ait des réseaux pour faire cette tâche. Et avec l'adoption d'une résolution de l'ONU l'an prochain, c'est essentiel de renforcer les capacités des organisations intermédiaires de l'ESS, les réseaux nationaux, parce que c'est au niveau des pays, les ODD et la résolution de l'ONU pourront se mettre en œuvre. Merci. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvon, for that input. And I'm going to go straight on to save time to Laurent, and then I'll come to Vitor for the next comment. So over to you, Laurent.
Thank you very much, Vic. How to improve existing social solidarity economy networks? I would say first by listening to social solidarity economy actors to know better about their concerns and how better strengthen their capabilities in order to scale up their potentials based on their successes and failures. I think it's a critical time for government as well as other economic and political decision makers to engage in active dialogue on how to institutionalize collaboration with social solidarity economy stakeholders, and particularly with social solidarity economy networks, to reinforce their capacities to better leverage their potentials, to develop markets for social solidarity economy enterprise through public procurement, and also to build a nationwide and strong social solidarity economy networks to allow social solidarity economy to better engage in an institutional and political dialogue with government in the national economic strategies and build back better strategy from COVID-19 crisis. I believe that an institutional recognition and mechanism to better support social solidarity economy network is very important to improve existing social solidarity economy networks, but also it's very important to align all existing policies, good and innovative initiatives to support social solidarity economy networks, including legal and financial measures, in order to maximize their impact, especially to give a political and operational coherence at the national and international level. And I think this could be done not only by government, but also by UN agencies and intergovernmental organizations and international development agencies. That's why I think it is so important that ILO has decided to have a general discussion on social solidarity economy and the promotion of decent work at the 110th International Labour Conference in June 2022, as well as the current effort of UN Task Force for Social Solidarity Economy and some government to introduce a UN resolution on SSE at the 2022 UN General Assembly. I believe that it is equally important that local, regional, and national government to align their public policies in favor of not only promoting individual social enterprise, but particularly territorially based social solidarity economy networks to avoid policy incoherence. When it's needed, I think that those governments who are searching for or developing those legal and political frameworks should be accompanied by relevant UN agencies and international development organizations to make greater impact of their actions for the social solidarity economy networks. It is, I think, critical time to explore transformative capacities and potential of social solidarity economy that should be channeled more effectively through social solidarity economy networks, especially to lead a transitional process of our economy to be more sustainable and inclusive. I think the most important thing to do is to improve existing social solidarity economy network, especially by involving social solidarity actors in making all relevant policies and programs directed to them, and particularly to social solidarity economy networks, and co-create those relevant policies and programs with them, so that social solidarity economy stakeholders should be always part of those discussions and negotiations at all times. This is a sine qua non for us. One more thing that I think that can improve existing social solidarity economy network is probably to consolidate the training institutions and capacity building programs directed to social solidarity economy actors. So equally that we can reproduce the leaders and representative of social solidarity economy networks who are really capable in federating of the potentials and role of social solidarity economy actors, and also sectors across the economy and society. I believe that it is a critical time for the social solidarity economy to be integrated into also educational curricula, not only from at the university level, but also from secondary school to institutions of higher education. So the general public can better understand about the role and importance of social solidarity economy, and can support not only individual enterprise, but also general social solidarity economy networks, as well as ecosystem of social solidarity economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laurence. I'm now going to turn to Vitor. We're in the second question on the panel discussion regarding how do we improve existing SSE networks to help contribute to this inclusive and sustainable development. The floor is yours, and to make any other comments you would have made in the introduction as well. So thank you for joining us, and you have the floor.
Antes de mais nada, queria pedir desculpa por entrar tardiamente, mas surgiu um impedimento de última hora e eu saúdo naturalmente esta iniciativa. Eu sou secretário-geral da União das Cidades Capitais de Língua Portuguesa, que é a mais antiga instituição no relacionamento com as cidades de todos os países de língua oficial portuguesa, a saber, cidades que envolvem países como a Guiné-Bissau, Cabo Verde, São Tomé e Príncipe, Angola, Moçambique, Brasil, Timor-Leste e, naturalmente, Portugal. Neste momento, existem 56 cidades que são associadas desta instituição, repito, a União das Cidades Capitais de Língua Portuguesa, e cerca de 20 entidades empresariais que apoiam esta instituição. Nós desenvolvemos uma atividade múltipla nas relações com as cidades dos países de língua oficial portuguesa. Para além das cidades dos países de língua oficial portuguesa, há a região administrativa especial de Macau, que desde a primeira hora, ou seja, desde 1985, data da Constituição, faz parte da nossa instituição. Isto porque, como sabem, a China considera que Macau é a porta de ligação com todos os países de língua oficial portuguesa e criou mesmo um fórum de cooperação com esses países que tem no secretariado representantes de cada um deles. Para além da região administrativa de Macau, há duas cidades de Espanha, concretamente Santiago de Compostela, que é uma cidade que é a capital da região administrativa da Galiza, da região autónoma da Galiza, que é também associada, e uma outra cidade, Olivença, que justificou e justifica-se as razões dessas adesões por efeito das relações históricas com Portugal e com o povo português. Postas as questões nestes termos, nós, em resultado da pandemia, que é o objeto fundamental destas intervenções, estabelecemos relações de grande proximidade com os municípios e com as pessoas que residem nos municípios das várias cidades. Que tipo de preocupações é que temos para estas respostas? Antes de mais nada, temos uma política para a educação para o desenvolvimento que atende a uma correlação entre a atividade das escolas de todos os nossos países e as crianças desses países. Damos muita atenção a isto porque, como 5 dos países das nossas cidades são países africanos, a idade média desses, a idade maioritária desses países africanos de língua portuguesa é muito baixa e alguns deles têm uma idade inferior a 18 anos da maioria da população. Isso levanta problemas delicados de desenvolvimento. Porquê? Porque as respostas ao desenvolvimento têm que assentar em políticas do futuro e esses jovens, a maioria da população, estão em idade escolar e, em muitos casos, são desviados para a atividade produtiva por razões de sobrevivência. Daí a nossa preocupação em políticas para a educação para o desenvolvimento, que desenvolvemos em muitos países com experiências diversificadas. Por exemplo, temos assente uma cooperação muito estreita com os municípios, as cidades de Cabo Verde, mas também de Moçambique, também da Guiné, também de Portugal, com objetivos diversificados, mas sempre nesta lógica da educação para o desenvolvimento. Neste momento, por exemplo, há uma cooperação a ser desenvolvida em Maputo, capital de Moçambique, neste domínio, mas também na ilha de Moçambique. Esta educação para o desenvolvimento, que atende às crianças e à sua formação e educação, procura responder também a preocupações que resultam das consequências da pandemia, uma vez que ela agravou profundamente as desigualdades no interior de cada país. E isso temos que ter em atenção. Como é que os fazemos? Por um lado, respondendo à proteção que é necessário dinamizar para bens de equipamento e bens que têm a ver com máscaras de proteção, em articulação com os municípios, com as câmaras municipais. Porquê? Porque a geminação dessas câmaras, ou seja, a relação bilateral entre câmaras importantes do ponto de vista financeiro, podem favorecer e favorecem estas parcerias. Portanto, no domínio das parcerias, isto está a ser feito, como está a ser feito respostas à política da educação. Nós nunca descuramos também a parte cultural. E, por exemplo, na pandemia, fizemos uma solicitação a todas as pessoas que são objeto de atenção pelas nossas redes sociais para contribuírem com textos que depois foram agrupados em livro no sentido das preocupações causadas pelas consequências da pandemia na pós-pandemia. E demos origem a um livro amplamente difundido que em todas as vertentes das atividades que desenvolvemos, no setor da educação, no apoio e proteção às consequências da pandemia e à prevenção dela, são consideradas. Naturalmente, a questão do trabalho é absolutamente fundamental. Qual é a preocupação que aí há? A economia informal dos países continentais europeus, menos nos países insulares e menos em Cabo Verde, a situação da economia informal destes países continentais africanos tem uma enorme relevância, um enorme peso. E por esse efeito, nós procuramos sensibilizar as entidades públicas, ou seja, os Estados, mas sobretudo também os municípios, as cidades, para concorrerem para que a legalização dessa economia informal, que não suscita proteção da segurança social aos que dela dependem, seja valorizada na lógica da legalização. A percentagem é muito elevada, muitíssimo elevada, como todos sabem, e também isso é considerado nos países de língua oficial portuguesa. Este dado, a par com o agravamento do próprio desemprego na economia formal, na economia legalizada, é também uma preocupação nossa para preservarmos, tanto quanto possível, em termos de pandemia, respostas institucionais que garantam o apoio público, quer das autarquias, quer das entidades estatais propriamente dita, às pessoas mais desfavorecidas. Essas questões, que são consequência da pandemia e que colocam a salvaguarda da dignidade do trabalho e da economia informal e da formal como nossa preocupação, está presente nas respostas que a UCCLA, a União das Cidades Capitais de Língua Portuguesa, procura dar. Como compreendem e sabem, a situação dos países africanos e das cidades africanas, quer em termos da maioria da juventude desses países, é muito diferente daquilo que se passa na Europa, em que a maioria da população é uma população já mais envelhecida, ou do que se passa no Brasil, em que as questões da demografia e da idade da demografia se colocam também a um nível mais elevado. Nós temos relações, portanto, com as cidades europeias, desde logo com Portugal, e as duas cidades espanholas, tal como no Brasil, a um nível diferente. Aí procuramos valorizar também os aspectos culturais na difusão da língua portuguesa, da própria cultura da lusofonia, ou seja, a cultura de todos os nossos países e, sobretudo, daquela que tem uma sustentação muito forte em países como o Brasil, em que é uma língua materna. A língua portuguesa, aliás, convém que se refira, para além de ser uma língua oficial em muitos desses países, no Brasil é uma língua materna, e em parte dos países africanos já o é também, como em Cabo Verde, como devem compreender, ou está a evoluir de uma forma muito progressiva em Angola. E a língua portuguesa é, por isso, também um instrumento económico. É por isso que países emergentes, com um peso não negligenciável à escala planetária como a China, ergueu Macau como uma porta de ligação da China relativamente à língua portuguesa. E dotou, mesmo para terminar, e dotou essa instituição que criou o Fórum para a implementação de parcerias entre os países de língua portuguesa, melhor, entre as empresas de língua portuguesa, com um fundo muito significativo de 20 milhões de dólares. É neste quadro que nós desenvolvemos, neste momento, o combate à pandemia, tendo, por um lado, em vista as crianças, tendo em atenção os docentes, tendo em atenção a articulação direta com as escolas, com as direções dos municípios e nunca esquecendo a globalização com que este problema está em curso e cuja resposta é cada vez mais necessária. Tanto mais que, como sabem, ainda agora surgiu uma nova variante do vírus da pandemia, com origem na África do Sul, cuja gravidade parece ser significativa e que levou, aliás, um país europeu já a condicionar as viagens e até a receptividade de cidadãos que se desloquem para alguns países mais próximos da África do Sul, com este objetivo de condicionar, de proteger os cidadãos nesta mobilização global que nós hoje temos. Agradeço muito, peço a vossa audiência, peço mais uma vez desculpa pela minha tardia entrada que se deveu nesta sessão, que se deveu a um facto inesperado que eu próprio não contei e que me levou a ligar para o Sr. Presidente do Instituto António Sérgio a dar-lhe conta que iria fazer tudo para estar presente, como estou, num quadro diferente daquele que desejaria. Muito obrigado.
Thank you very much, Vitor, for your input. That is really welcome. And you raised the point of the variant of the virus in South Africa. Well, I'm a South African, and we like being creative, but not in this way that we get a new variant.
I know.
And but now the sad thing for me is my family were coming to visit me at Christmas, and I get informed today the flights have been stopped. So that's the world we live in now. So I'll have to rely on a virtual meeting with them. Anyway, let's get on to further business. We're now going to listen to a video by the Honorable Yolanda Díaz, the second Vice President of the Government of Spain and Minister for Work and Social Economy. So over to the technicians.
Buenas tardes a todos y a todas. Me gustaría agradecer la invitación de la OIT a participar en esta edición de la Academia de Economía Social y Solidaria, así como al Gobierno de la República Portuguesa por organizar este encuentro en el marco de su presidencia del Comité de Seguimiento de la Declaración de Luxemburgo. Creo que esta iniciativa está contribuyendo a difundir y mejorar la comprensión del concepto de economía social y solidaria, así como a reforzar su impacto al estrechar lazos entre actores de distintos países. En este sentido, en un contexto como el actual de salida de la crisis económica producida por la COVID-19, celebro la oportunidad que se me brinda hoy en este panel para compartir y aprender de otros países y continuar apoyando a la economía social y solidaria. Precisamente, si algo ha demostrado la pandemia es la necesidad de articular un nuevo modelo de producción más inclusivo y sostenible, que ponga en el centro a las personas. Justo es eso lo que defienden y hacen en su día a día las diversas entidades que integran la economía social y solidaria. Por ello, en España hemos apostado con firmeza por este modelo, impulsando su participación en el Plan de Recuperación, Transformación y Resiliencia, así como implicándonos en el apoyo al sector en los foros internacionales. Generar alianzas que fomenten el modelo es fundamental para su éxito y por ello me gustaría repasar algunas de las iniciativas y proyectos en los que mi país está implicado. Participación con la que creemos que estamos asentando un modelo de transformación social liderado por la economía social y solidaria. En primer lugar, quisiera referirme como antecedente a la celebración de esta Academia de la OIT en Madrid en su edición del 19, organizada por la OIT, este Ministerio y CPLP. Aquella edición concluyó con la firma de un manifiesto en el que se mostraba la apuesta decidida por la economía social y solidaria como modelo inclusivo, socialmente innovador, sostenible y que afianza el modelo social y los estados del bienestar. En segundo lugar, y aprovechando la organización de la Academia por parte de Portugal, me gustaría mencionar nuestro papel activo en el Comité de Seguimiento de la Declaración de Luxemburgo. Desde que se pusiera en marcha hemos estado muy implicadas, pudiendo destacar la presidencia que ostentamos durante el pasado año 2020 y que materializamos en una agenda bien nutrida de eventos en Toledo, capital europea de la economía social. Así concluimos el ejercicio de la presidencia con la Declaración de Toledo, donde pusimos en valor todos los antecedentes de declaraciones del Comité de Seguimiento que han ido llevando a una consolidación de la economía social y solidaria. El ejercicio de la presidencia en 2020 fue difícil debido a las circunstancias sanitarias, pero logramos, sin embargo, aumentar la presencia de países participantes en el comité. La labor realizada por Portugal en este año ha continuado en ese camino, con la declaración de Cascais como nuevo documento que nos permite visualizar una hoja de ruta común a seguir y que a buen seguro se continuará en la próxima presidencia del año 2022, ejercida por Italia. Desde el comité estaremos pendientes de la inminente aprobación y posterior seguimiento del Plan de Acción Europeo de Economía Social, un hecho trascendental para el sector que por primera vez va a tener un documento estratégico a nivel de la Unión Europea. Por otro lado, en el marco de esta presidencia de Portugal, nuestros países han firmado un memorando de entendimiento, otra de las líneas en las que trabajamos para fomentar alianzas y que hemos suscrito también con otros países. Precisamente en ese memorando, con Portugal, incidimos en la importancia de colaborar, de generar alianzas, sinergias que nos faciliten progresar. La colaboración es precisamente uno de esos valores que se insertan dentro del ADN de las empresas de la economía social y solidaria. Juntos y juntas somos más fuertes y por ello nos emplazábamos a llevar la economía social y solidaria a las próximas cumbres iberoamericanas, tendiendo puentes y estrategias comunes. Finalmente, y para concluir, destacaría otra alianza en la que trabajamos y que nos lleva a otra región, la Unión por el Mediterráneo. Se trata de un foro que nos une con los países de nuestro entorno y nos aporta así perspectivas muy diversas al combinar países de distintos continentes. Recientemente se celebró el taller de Economía Social de la Unión por el Mediterráneo, donde pudimos compartir experiencias con países como Portugal, Marruecos, Túnez, Francia, Argelia, Italia o Turquía y aprender de todos ellos. En definitiva, un conjunto de foros y espacios que nos posibilita avanzar y potenciar a la economía social y solidaria, tejiendo a nivel global alianzas fundamentales para que el sector se extienda cada vez más. Considero que ha llegado el momento de dar un salto de escala con el objetivo de construir un modelo económico a la medida de las personas, con la economía social y solidaria como referente, un modelo más justo e inclusivo, más sostenible social y medioambientalmente. Nada más, solo deseo agradecer de nuevo la invitación a participar en este acto y la organización de esta edición de la Academia por parte de la OIT y Portugal. Vuestra labor en la difusión del sector es un verdadero modelo a seguir. Muchas gracias. Muito obrigada.
Thank you to Yolanda Díaz, the second Vice President of the Government of Spain. We now have a number of questions that have come up in the chat column, and unfortunately we're not going to get to all of them. So I'm going to direct different questions to different panelists, and if you can keep your answers very short, then we see how many we can get to. So Antonella, I'm going to turn to you first. And one of the questions from Sabia Melody is that, in your experience during the pandemic, is the social enterprise properly meeting all of its environmental obligations? Do you think the SSE is playing a good role in that area? Your thoughts on this?
Not sure I get exactly the question.
Okay, during the pandemic, and we also see the environmental challenges and the pandemic itself, are SSE enterprises coming up to deliver what they should be delivering, or is there a problem?
Well, from what we have observed, we said that we have seen that social enterprises and more in general social economy organization have really done miracles to continue to deliver in spite of having been obliged to quickly readjust their operational model. So I would say that in general, for some of them, they have been able to continue to deliver, including on the environmental challenges. We need to acknowledge, though, that for some of those organizations, they were heavily impacted by the financial constraints and for the fact that, for instance, they were not able to immediately sell their products on the market, and they some of these organizations were experimenting huge difficulties, and for a number of them, they had to close their operations. So this is the general response I would provide.
Thank you. Yvon, I'm going to turn to you, where there's a question from Dr. Ravichandran. And could you share the position, could you please share the position of cooperatives at the international level from the perspective of SSEs?
This varies, I'll speak in English this time. This varies from country to country and types of cooperatives. Some cooperatives, for example, the workers' cooperatives around the world are very, very close to SSE in most countries. In some other countries, it's not always the case. It depends a lot on the governance and the legislation concerning cooperatives. But there are many, for example, International Co-op Alliance Asia Pacific just published a paper where they stress the importance of SSE in their region. So it varies from cooperative to cooperative and country to country. In Canada, for example, cooperatives are part of the SSE global movement. In the United States, many cooperatives also are close to SSE. So it varies a lot because cooperatives, some of the cooperatives are very, very big. They have on the market competing the big capitalist corporations. So they have limits to what they can do. But in general, there's been, I find personally, that there's been a lot of progress in the last 5 or 10 years to reach out and link cooperatives to SSE. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvon. I'm going to turn to you, Laurence. This is an interesting question regarding digital tools from Dr. Merrill Martin, saying that, you know, we've used the tools of WhatsApp, Google, and Zoom, which are commercial for profit only products and services. And in essence, don't we think it's time to turn to more user environmentally friendly digital tools that are more in line with the social and solidarity economy mandate? You know, isn't it time to walk the talk in this regard? It's a much longer question, but I've just tried to capture the gist of that. Laurence, what do you think?
Yes, thank you very much, Vic. Also, I spotted this question. Yes, I think it's a very important question raised by the participants, and I also think that it is an urgent task and relevant probably for some big social economy organizations or some even you know, very intelligent and creative young social entrepreneurs to look at these issues. I think it is not an impossible task. You know, like Wikipedia is a social enterprise which has started to, you know, build a really global network of sharing information and knowledge. That I'm not a specialist in technology, so I cannot say, you know, with more relevant response. But certainly, I think organizations like ILO or some UN agencies should look at these issues with some social solidarity economic enterprise and young entrepreneurs who have better talents in technology. And I think it is very important actually to develop some user friendly and especially user friendly for the developing countries, because there is a growing gap between developed countries and developing countries in terms of access to those technologies and global technological enterprise. I think even our organization, which has members in 36 countries, for each time when we are organizing webinars or international conference, and all our members in developing countries are following several hours with their handphones and mobile phones, and the accessibility to the connectivity and accessibility to information and knowledge are very limited for them. So I would say it's becoming a very urgent imperative for the public goods and public purposes. But unfortunately, I think it cannot be a task of an individual social enterprise or social entrepreneur. I think there should be some kind of alliance between some public organizations or international organizations and those social entrepreneurs and social enterprise. Let me just speak to respond also to first question that you have asked to OECD, the Antonella. I just, because I want to share this question from the experience of Korea. We have seen especially during the COVID-19 crisis in Korea, that the delivery industry has been so developed. So because of the packaging of those food deliveries and all kind of deliveries, that all the waste for the environmental concerns have increased and have tripled. And in Korea, it's quite interesting that that the question you have raised, whether the social enterprise and social organizations are responding or meeting this standard and these concerns from environmental perspective, I would say is extreme. I think most of social economy organizations, enterprise in Korea are very small and medium enterprise, and so they are not able to cope actually with these growing concerns despite of their values and commitment. But it's very interesting, the National Confederation of Consumer Cooperative have started to develop a different package systems and different delivery systems in order to reduce the environmental waste and also to increase the public awareness of environmental concerns. So actually that in the sector, which is dominated by big major capitalist conglomerates, that this Confederation of Consumer Cooperative are innovating their practice and business models and business practice, including ESG, environmental, social, and governance models. So I think it will be very interesting to document on those, very recent developed and innovative practice. Unfortunately, I think even in Korea that we do not have many literatures written in English and French or Spanish. Most of them are only available in Korean. But a lot of, I'm sure that a lot of those innovative practices are developing at the ground level. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laurence. And we've come to the end of our session. It's been a very rich session, and thank you to our experts and to the video recordings for your time and for your expert input. And thank you to the participants and for the questions. And there's been a number of really good questions. Meryl, your question is one that we certainly need to take forward in regards to the digitization and the role of the SSE. We need to see that we take up some key space in these areas as we go forward. And the same with green jobs. If we look at the whole role of where we're looking at growth in jobs in the future, it's about the environment, it's about green jobs. And we need to make sure that we don't get left behind in the new developments and discussions that are taking place. So thank you once again to all of you. Thank you to the organizers, to to all the persons behind the scene. For the interpreters, thank you. You've been great. It's always good to have good interpretation, and I've listened and tried to improve my French as we've gone along, interpreting the questions. So thank you to all of you. Do I hand back to you, Linda? And
thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you so much for your great facilitation, Vic van Vuuren. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. Thank you, all the speakers of this wonderful panel, this wonderful discussion, and thank you above all for your great commitment to create a conducive environment for the social and solidarity economy. So thanks a lot. And dear participants, stay tuned. In just an hour, we are starting the final closing session of this academy. So see you then. Thank you.